Welcome to Consumer Lab HQ. I'm Dr. Hazel Huang, and I'm here to give you practical tips and shortcuts that help you navigate research methods. Today, we're starting with something every dissertation student needs to nail: the 5 rules for writing a good hypothesis. Let's dive in. Let's start with the basics. A hypothesis is a testable statement that predicts the relationship between 2 or more variables, grounded in theory. It is a specific, directional prediction derived logically from existing theory and testable with data. Why do hypotheses matter? 2 reasons. First, they anchor your research design. A well-formed hypothesis tells you which variables to measure, which analysis to run, and how to interpret your results. Second, they make your contribution visible. Markers assess your hypotheses to judge whether your study advances theory. A weak hypothesis signals a weak contribution. A precise, theoretically grounded one signals the opposite. Students often confuse research questions and hypotheses, so let's clear that up. A research question is open-ended. It asks what, how, or why. A hypothesis is closed. It makes a directional prediction. Use a hypothesis when prior theory supports a clear prediction. Use a research question when theory is insufficient to predict direction or to understand the nuances of a phenomenon. Hypotheses are tested through confirmatory statistics. Research questions through qualitative or descriptive methods. A quick example: how does social media use relate to self-esteem? Is a research question. Compared with moderate or minimum social media usage, greater social media usage decreases self-esteem, is a hypothesis. The moment you can specify the direction of the effect, you are in hypothesis territory. So what makes a good hypothesis? There are 5 rules to follow: theory-driven, clear and specific, testable, directional, and novel. Let's go through each one. The most important characteristic: your hypothesis must be theory-driven. Every hypothesis needs a because, and that because must come from the literature, not from intuition. A useful template: based on theory or prior finding, we hypothesize that X impacts Y. Here's one example. Based on Cialdini's scarcity heuristic, we can propose that the presence of limited edition labeling increases willingness to pay. Here is another example. Grounded in Festinger's upward social comparison theory, we can put forward this hypothesis: increased social media usage intensity decreases body satisfaction. In both cases, the theoretical grounding is explicit. That is what you are aiming for. This diagram shows the full sequence, from existing literature to logical deduction to hypothesis and to empirical test. You begin with theory, reason towards a prediction, then test it with data. The key takeaway: a hypothesis is a deduction, not a guess. The second characteristics: clarity and specificity. Social media usage intensity is more precise than social media. It tells us exactly what is being measured. The more precisely you define your variables, the more testable your hypothesis becomes. The third characteristics is: your hypothesis must be testable and falsifiable. Take this example. Consumers prefer brands aligned with their values. It sounds reasonable, but what would count as disconfirming evidence? It is too broad to falsify rigorously. Avoid this kind of hypothesis. Fourth, be directional. Specify whether the effect is positive or negative. Avoid vague language like associated with or related to. Here are 2 examples of non-directional hypotheses. Brand satisfaction leads to brand attitude does not tell us the direction. Social media use is associated with materialism is equally vague. We need to fix both of these. Compare the corrected versions. Brand satisfaction positively leads to brand attitude, much clearer. And great social media usage intensity increases materialism, directional and specific. Always specify the direction. Fifth, and this one really matters for your mark: novelty. Novelty is where your markers judge how original and valuable your research is. A replication of textbook findings adds limited value. A hypothesis like high brand satisfaction leads to greater brand loyalty, while true, has been shown countless times. That is not novel. A common trap is over-relying on well-worn frameworks. For example, the theory of planned behavior, stimulus-organism response, without extending or challenging them. Using these as is, without a new theoretical angle, adds little to what is already known. If, however, you can find a context where an established relationship does not hold, this is a route to novelty. For example, the satisfaction to loyalty link is well known, but introducing a moderating variable that qualifies it under specific conditions can constitute genuine novelty. Remember, Novelty does not mean developing something completely new. You are building upon existing knowledge and theories. Your job is to see existing constructs in a new way. Here's another great example. Huang et al. Applied well-established theory. Social crowding causes stress, triggering avoidance behavior in a novel direction. Their hypothesis. Social crowding increases brand attachment. The reasoning. Crowding reduces social connectedness, so people seek to restore it through non-human means, including brands. Existing theory. Novel application. A question I often hear is, where do I start if I don't know many theories? Start with your existing module readings. They will point you toward the theories your field considers important. If you wish to study consumer behavior, I recommend 2 reference books. The first one, which I authored, covers consumer psychology theories across chapters 2 to 11. Browse it, find what interests you, and use those references as your starting point. And another book I recommend covers a broader range of theories, but this book is written for researchers, so the language is more demanding. But the approach is the same. Identify candidate theories, then trace back to the original papers. Both books are starting points, not endpoints. The original papers in your field's leading journals are your best models for what a good topic, a well-formed hypothesis, and a rigorous argument actually look like. That wraps up our session on 5 rules for a good research hypothesis. If you found this helpful, be sure to check out our other videos. The best research doesn't just ask questions, it asks the right questions. Keep questioning, and I'll see you soon.